Chapter 4. Music and Color Tones. The great color tone painters are undoubtedly able to perceive far more of color than the rest of mankind. Sometimes we think that they use their colors in an extreme way, but instead of this being true, without doubt they perceive colors in nature that they find it impossible to reproduce. I am inclined to think that the greatest colorist would say that the average person knows little or nothing concerning color, or the harmonies produced by color. People talk of fixed colors, and yet how little we know about fixed colors in nature. Many people have the idea that natural colors can be classified, but with the 7 colors of the spectrum, we may have hundreds of thousands of changes. There is not an hour of the day but that every color changes in hue, shade, and tint with the varying conditions of light. An object seen at one moment presents a color that is very bright. At the next moment, a cloud passing over the sky shows it a much darker shade. Man, in his use of pigments, has never been able to reproduce what would be called an absolutely pure color. Some surfaces so absorb light that we have little, if any, reflected color, and we call those surfaces black, brown, or gray. Others reflect back so much that we get the bright colors of red, orange, or yellow, blue, or green, and sometimes violet. Many people believe that they see all the color that is to be seen, but even the spectrum discloses but a very little of the color that exists, but yet is invisible to human sight. The color sense is beyond all question a development in the life of man. Going back in the literature of ancient days, we find little, if any, reference to color, and the colors mentioned consist of only 3 or 4 at most. The Rigveda mentions the earth, but never uses the term green in connection with it, although the terms red and gold are used. The Vedas have no name for the color of the sky, neither is one to be found in our own Bible. I believe it is only as a man's inner vision unfolds that color is perceived, and as the inner life is developed man will continue to respond to new color and new sound vibration. Color possesses a power to absorb and retain heat, and it might be well to take this into consideration when using color for decorating or furnishing rooms. Black not only absorbs the greatest amount of light, but also of heat, and white is at the other extreme, reflecting back more of light and absorbing less of heat. Sir Humphrey Davy gave the different heat-absorbing colors in this order: black, blue, green, red, yellow, white. All the different authorities give black and dark blue as having the greatest heat-absorbing power and white and yellow as having the least. An experiment by Count Rumford shows that those substances that part from heat with the greatest celerity are those which acquire it the most easily. Substances possess a specific influence on the absorption of heat, caloric, both luminous and non-luminous, and they give off their caloric at the same rate that it is absorbed. Some scientists state that color sensation is a part of sound and gives the character or impression of the sound, and that all people feel it whether they consciously recognize it or not. In the same way, melodious sounds should give their character through impressions of harmonious combinations of pleasing colors. Again, color sensations may be translated into their vocal sounds, thereby giving color to spoken words. Perhaps it was because Wagner loved color so much in life that we find so much color in his music. It is doubtful if any other one composer has ever put so much and such a variety of color into music as he did. We can well understand his saying, "I must have beauty, color, and light." And that he received all 3 we have the evidence in his color and beauty-inspiring music. Life is music and color in expression. There is no music or color apart from life. Both are states of consciousness. Some people in possession of little consciousness hear little of music and see little of color. They have not come to the consciousness of either the one or the other. All color and all music is within the soul, and there can be neither the one nor the other until the soul makes them. What anyone is able to see of color or hear of music is because of his inner knowing, and the greater the inner knowledge, the more he will hear of music, and the more he will see of color in the outer world. The vibration set up in his own life through spiritual feeling and righteous thinking will cause him to become attuned to the great etheric vibration of the universe. The music of the spheres is no idle dream of the visionary. The soul that is one with the oversoul knows that everything in God's great universe makes music. The wind passing through the trees, the brooks running over the stones, water falling from a height. Wherever there is rhythm, there is melody, and rhythm enters into the constitution of all things. Rates of rhythmic vibration determine creation. Rates of discordant vibration destroy all form. Each person may determine for himself whether the vibration of his own life is going to be creative or destructive, for each person can make either the rhythmic, harmonious vibration that makes for health, strength, and happiness, or the discordant vibration that makes for pain, disease, and death. I know that people will say they want harmonious vibration, but something more than wanting is necessary. Desire is the initial move, but the person possessing the true or strong desire should be willing to work for the accomplishment of that particular end, because by work only can fulfillment be obtained. It is, therefore, necessary to obtain as comprehensive a knowledge of the laws of life as one can, and then to live as nearly as possible in conformity with those laws. This constitutes the real wisdom of life, and wisdom is something more than knowledge. Wisdom is both knowing and doing. Sometimes there are people who say that they must acquire a great deal of knowledge in order to be able to do what they wish, but the best way to acquire knowledge is always through doing. Saith the Master, "If any man will do his will, he shall know of the doctrine." Few of us need to know more, but most of us need to do more, and through the greater doing there will come the greater knowing. The ideals we have in mind are usually a long way ahead of our performance. The effort to live our ideals will bring with it still greater ideals. I have said that color is a state of consciousness, but the mind uses its physical organisms for certain definite purposes. If we could see aright, we should know that the body of man is an exact physical counterpart of an invisible man, that we have an inner seeing and an inner hearing just as well as the outer seeing and the outer hearing, and that the outer is the perfect correspondence of the inner. The purely physical theory of seeing is this. There are different kinds of nerve elements in the retina of the eye which are affected by waves of light. The longest wave of light produces the color red, because it is the longest and acts more strongly than do the shorter waves. As all these varying waves of light affect the eye, the various colors are seen. First red, then orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and last of all violet, the violet having the shortest light wave of all. These different etheric waves of light have no color of themselves. It is only as the white ray is broken up that the different waves touch the optic nerve, and according to their rapidity produce in different degrees something which we call color. It is said that there are 3 different kinds of nerve elements. We might say that these elements correspond to the 3 primary colors, or the 3 primary notes in music. As this book is not intended for a scientific exposition either of music or of color, but rather to offer suggestions as to how music and color may be used for the benefit of the mind and body, the writer would advise anyone interested in either one or the other to make a study of the best scientific books to be found on sound or color theories. He who expects to do the best work with music or color should have as thorough a knowledge of both as it is possible for him to obtain. The one thing hoped for by the writer is that this book may awaken the minds of people so that eventually a thoroughly scientific way of using both musical and color vibration for the healing of the mind and the body may be found. If in these lines you do not find the subject is defined fully or with scientific precision, it is largely because the writer is more interested in trying to point out a new way of life than to define or explain the scientific theories of sound and color. So many books have been written on both that anyone can possess himself of knowledge as set forth by thoroughly competent scientific writers. My one object in touching on scientific theories of sound and color is to cause an awakening of interest in the minds of many which I trust may prove of the greatest benefit to them in the end. I have written in this way in order to show that if we are ever to enter into a full appreciation of the value of music and color, it will be because we have developed the harmonies of music and color in our own lives. We become attuned to God's great universe and form a harmonious part of it only through the development of our highest spiritual consciousness, and upon such development must depend all the wonder and beauty of the great outer world, all the color and all the music that exist throughout all nature. Each soul is a part of the whole, but it has been given to each soul to bring order out of chaos, to bring harmony out of discord, to bring strength out of weakness, to bring wisdom out of ignorance, to bring love out of hate, and in the doing of this, the part comes to understand its full relationship to the whole. Through its own giving, it becomes not only adjusted to its inner life, but also to its outer life, so that it receives from God and from man. It gives of the wholeness, the fullness, the completeness of life, and everything that is beautiful to be found in nature or in man will become disclosed to such a life. This is the way of life, the straight and narrow way of which the Nazarene told his disciples 2,000 years ago. If we walk in this way, then we have everything to gain and nothing to lose. Each succeeding day will bring with it something of the newness, the wonder, and the beauty of life. The human body contains every instrument that is to be found in any great orchestra, but how few of us have learned to play, as it should be played, even one instrument of the many that we have in our possession. How few of us produce rhythm, melody, and harmony in everyday life. Yet it is necessary that man should learn to use every instrument in a rhythmic, harmonious way. Life becomes truly great and wonderful only when we are living it to the full. When we are absorbed in using our every power of mind and body to accomplish something definite, something creative in life, we get from life what we give to it. There is no receiving without giving. We have it in our power to make life just as great and just as joyous as we please, but no one else can make it so for us. Each man fulfills his own destiny, but that destiny is the result of what he feels and thinks and acts. His life may be as he will it, little or great. There is no chance, no luck, no happening. Everything that comes into life is the result of law and order, cause and effect. We make causes and reap effects. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he, so he must become. No development takes place in the life of man save as he is engaged in some kind of work, because, as I have said before, we work out everything in the nature of the plan that God has written into human life. The acorn works out the plan that is written into it and eventually becomes the towering oak. Man works out the image and likeness that has been written into his soul, and eventually, that which we call human becomes divine. We are all working from the earth to the heaven. We are all evolving from the atom to the Christ. In the evolution of the human soul, just as fast as the unfolding takes place from within, does it affect everything without. For everything in the outer world is only a series of pictures of what man has felt and thought and lived in the past. He is the summing up and epitomizing of nature in himself, and because he is all this, he must be something more than this. He must epitomize all the life, wisdom, and power that exists in the great Oversoul. He must be the real representative of God on earth. He must become fully conscious of a universal mind and will working in him, to will and to do. Man must realize that as a purely personal being he can do nothing, but as a child of God, he is endowed potentially with omniscience and omnipotence, for it is God that worketh within him to will and to do. No man lives to himself, no man dies to himself. One life and one intelligence guides and directs all alike. One will and one power lives and moves in all souls, whether developed or undeveloped, but the undeveloped is all unconscious of this, whereas the one who is developed is thoroughly conscious that of himself he is nothing, that it is God working in him, and because of this he is able to accomplish everything in life that he wills to do. To such a one life becomes filled with unlimited possibilities. All the littleness, all the meanness is swallowed up, or, I might say, all shadows are left behind when one presses forward in accordance with the divine will. Such a one is preparing himself, through living a beautiful and harmonious life, to see more and more of the beauty and harmony of the great outer world in which he lives. Nature is his mirror in which he sees himself as he is. If he brings joy and gladness, if he brings peace and goodwill, if he brings gentleness and kindness to the mirror, he is going to see with the eyes of the Lord, and the eyes of the Lord are too pure to behold iniquity. To the pure in heart all things are pure. Life gives him back that which he brings to it. Man is not left to the condemnation or mercy of anything save his own ideals, for he rewards or punishes himself as he consciously obeys or disobeys the laws of life. The development of his own life is committed to his own care. He has everything necessary wherewith to work out every hidden power, every unseen possibility, but it is through work that it is all accomplished. Through work he can make his life what he wills to make it. Man is master of his own fate. He is neither controlled by circumstances nor environment. He can be as great as his highest ideal, but only through conformity to the laws which regulate all life. He must learn to feel the real rhythm of being. He must express that rhythm through melody. He must so adjust his mind to both his inner and outer life that he uses harmony in a perfect way. If he is doing this, then he is fulfilling the laws of life and reaping the true reward of his own right actions. When man lives in this way, he not only experiences greater health and happiness, but he is bringing an influence to bear upon the lives of others that will make for untold good. The world today is asking for light, for more light, and if anyone can show a way of living that will bring greater health and happiness to it, that is of more importance than many theories that do not deal with the life of man in a practical way. The ideal and the practical must go hand in hand. Theories may be wonderful and beautiful, but if they are lacking in practical good, then the dwelling on such theories is only a waste of time. The need of the world today is for something that will bring to it more of joy and peace, more of health and happiness, and anyone who can suggest that which will help to do this is a real benefactor in the highest and best sense of the word. In giving to the world my suggestions for the use of music and color, I am convinced that all real betterment of mankind must come first through inner feeling and idealistic thought. Then through the unfolding of these two qualities there will ensue fuller and freer expression in man's outer world and life. For life and its full development is a much deeper thing than its outer environment, a much higher thing than food, drink, and raiment. For while the latter are necessary, it is still more essential that man should seek to develop his whole nature, his soul, his mind, and his body, so that the whole man may be quickened and renewed from center to circumference. If I can suggest in this book that which will help towards such an end, then I shall be fully satisfied. I firmly believe, however, that a time will come when the world's ills, whether of a mental or a physical nature, shall not only be helped, but actually healed through the scientific use of music and color. And it is to that particular end that I wish to direct the minds of those desirous of investigating the subject in a thorough way, as well as to awaken the interest of the non-professional reader. I am fully aware of the fact that, in a desultory way, music has been and is being used in institutions in different parts of the country with varying results. It is my sincere desire, however, to see the whole question taken up in a thoroughly scientific way, and every phase of the subject not only investigated, but the results tabulated, to the end that a real system of scientific therapeutics may be established that shall meet the needs and requirements of every form of disease, whether it be disease of mind or of body. Furthermore, if such a system were once inaugurated, it would pre-exclude the quack or the superficial practitioner, because if music and color become an exact science of healing, then before one might hope to practice it, it would be necessary to be scientifically trained. The practitioner would of necessity have been obliged to make a thorough study of music and color and their effects upon the varying temperaments of people, and be able to diagnose the nature of the trouble and prescribe the needed remedy. A system of music and color therapeutics, too, would without doubt do as much good to the doctor as to his patients, for at the present time the medical doctor is so absorbed in his material remedies that the whole trend of his work shapes his mind toward a materialistic view of life. This tends, in turn, to destroy intuition and real imagination, and makes the man as material as his remedies. It is not my wish to be in any way antagonistic to medical doctors. I should not be carrying out the principles I try to inculcate in this book if I were. My thought, therefore, is not directed against the men who practice the present systems of healing, but rather against the systems themselves. The world has had many systems of healing with material remedies in its time, and all have been tried and found wanting. The systems of the future will have to take this one fact into consideration, that man is a living soul possessed of a body, and that the body's needs can best be supplied by the healing properties of the soul. Everything necessary to health, strength, and happiness is resident in man's life, and when he uses the power in his possession to control to the full the forces of his own life, he will be successful, not only in overcoming disease with health, but in everything that he undertakes. He will grow in wisdom and stature, and eventually will become a law unto himself, having dominion and power over all things. End of chapter.